And we are live,
Okay,
Anya.
and we are live. 1 second. It says on LinkedIn, it's not live. Everywhere else, it is. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody who showed up today. My name is Anya. We have Thomas here. Is also Teya. And today we're going to talk, of course, about conscious business. Thomas, I decided I'm not going to butcher your surname, so I'm just going to say Thomas.
Perfect.
You can present yourself. So yeah, you're a very special, I would say, a piece of the puzzle of our Conscious Business Club, and we are so grateful that you became our ambassador. And yeah, let's get this party started.
Amazing.
Yes,
So,
this would be great,
Taya,
Thomas, just to hear, your wisdom, and especially how can people start with this journey, and also how they can support companies as a conscious business consultants. This is what I would like
Yeah.
to hear today. So,
excellent. So, thank you so much for the invitation. So glad to be here. Such an exciting opportunity to expand the conscious business community through the Conscious Business Club, Conscious Business Journey, Conscious. There's so many groups gathering around the idea of becoming more conscious as a business. So, my story, I was a former farmer, so I ended up being graduating as a civil engineer. My first 10 years of work were dedicated to a corporate world. And what happened is that I switched jobs 8 times. And I was very, I learned something. I had to move. And probably because that was not the place I wanted to be. So at the end of those 10 years, always moving jobs, Procter & Gamble, Kodak, Accor, the hotel business, and other smaller, medium companies, what came up to my mind, say, maybe I want to be an executive. So what I did, I applied for an executive MBA. Maybe that's the path to becoming an executive. Ultimately, what happened, I was hired by a consulting firm. And the following 10 years of my life, I was a consultant. So every 6 to 8 months, I was in a different project and a different client, a different team, a different country. So I had similar experience than before. And what I was not aware, I was living my values without becoming aware of that. So that's the first tip I offer you guys. The more we understand what's important to us, the better we understand where is our playing field. Where do I have to put my game into play? So after those 10 years, my daughter was born. And guess what? Oh, what I'm going to be now, let's maybe a father. So let's go back and, regroup and what I'm going to do. And I decided to start a business because by the time I was a consultant, I was mentoring some small business entrepreneurs. And I decided to say, I'm going to be partner of this company. And I became partner of a company that did food traceability. It was a time of the mad cow disease in Europe, and people were crazy. Where's the food coming from? And we decided to say, well, let's do this. Let's show people where the food comes from. And during that time, that was not my first entrepreneurial activity, but that was the real one that I became aware that I wanted to become an entrepreneur. During that time, we won 12 awards, sustainability, startup of the year, in innovation and other stuff. We had 4 patents filed, and that's when I wrote my first book. But at that time, something very interesting happened. I was working, trying to develop. We were a team of 4. I was the data analyst and the CEO because I was the most senior person, or maybe the older. And so I did the data analysis, explained it to my partner, who was the director of sales, and he actually presented that to the client. And then he said, "Oh, our CEO is here." So we played a number of switching hats at that time. And until we got bigger, and then the ego hit us. First was the ecosystem. So we were all together working towards a common goal to survive, to create a collaborative culture and work. But so when the ego started hitting us, and I said, you know what, I'm going to work with international business. So I started doing more international work, and my team, my other partners, were working locally. We had, when I left the business, we had 150,000 farms mapped under our system. We knew where the food was coming from, and where it was going, heading to which market. And I decided to say, well, which company could actually understand what we're doing? So I decided to reach out to Whole Foods to say, I lived in the US, I knew Whole Foods, and said, maybe these guys will understand what we do. And so of course, you go into LinkedIn, 2003, LinkedIn was already there, not that big. So I searched on Google, was also there, say, who's the owner, who's the CEO of Whole Foods, John Mackey. Okay, let's see what this guy thinks, what his ideas were. And he had an article about conscious capitalism. And I say, wow, that's weird, conscious and capitalism. How can those two words move forward together? And that was really tricky for me. I say, well, let's read it. I want to talk to the guy, so I need to understand what he thinks. So I read that article and talks about purpose. And I read about purpose and say, wow, we don't have a purpose. We have a belief. Our belief is that working collectively, we get better results. Not more, look at this, not more results, better results. So maybe I don't have 1 out of 10. Maybe I have a 7 score on that fundamental. I say stakeholder map. Say, what the hell is stakeholder? I know shareholder, stakeholder. And that was a little confusing. But then I understand that it's like a more systemic approach. And what we had was the traditional value chain extended. We were looking at the customer of our customers and the supplier of our suppliers. So maybe that's the weak point. Maybe we don't have a 7, we have a 5 or maybe a 4. And then it talked about culture. Say, wow, culture, what the hell is this? No idea. We just started the business. We never thought consciously or intentionally about that idea. And we discovered that we were bringing technology to the field, to the farmers, and the kids, the farmer kids, were coming back because they were sexy again. It was not just working in the mud, with plants and trees and cutting and harvesting and all that stuff. Now you have a computer, you can start, organizing information and say, maybe we're changing that culture, the culture, how people manage their business, even if it's a small business, it's a farmer business, a grower business. So, well, maybe we have a 6 on that requirement. And then leadership, I say, oh my God, leadership. Everybody talks about this. What the hell is leadership, right? So I read a bit about that and say, you know what? Maybe we're doing something on this area too. Because we understood that leadership was not command and control. You cannot actually force anybody to do anything because this is a free world. If you don't like it, you just move it unless you're locked in a political space. And so what happened is that we were doing something so hard. And one of the things that happened in my life, my daughter was 7 and she said, Daddy, all my friends, they tell their parents, their father is a lawyer, a doctor, a this and a that. I don't know what you are. What are you? And I say, oh my God, how do I explain food traceability to a 7-year-old kid? And I said, you know what? You have traceability on your name. How come? See, your name is Gabriela Mesquita Eckschmidt. So your last name, Eckschmidt, shows who your father is. Your second last name, Mesquita, shows who your mother is. So when somebody looks at your name, they know where you come from, who are your parents. And the amazing thing is when you look at the past, when you have all the kings and the queens, they had 30, 50 names because they had to carry their parent name, their grandparents' name, and so on to prove where they're coming from, their lineage. And I say, oh my God, that's traceability. That's easy to explain to a kid. So now we're getting better in explaining what we do. So what we learn is, and that came, say, let's write a book about this so people could understand what we are doing and how important it is to the food production. So ultimately, we wrote a book, very small. That was my first book out of the 24 we have now. So that first book was 88 pages because it had multiple of 8. So we maximized the opportunity as an engineer. My mind to say, I don't want to leave any blank page. So 88 pages. And that was our business card. Our business card was teaching people, inviting people, having people get excited about us, inspiring people of what we do. So we presented our content in conferences everywhere. And people came to us, say, oh, I want to do this. I want to learn more about this. And we kept educating them. So that was a way of leading a change that we were proposing based on our belief and extended, value chain, which was a very simple way, and creating a culture of collaboration. So that brought me to John, and I discovered he was going to be at a conference, and I was doing conferences for food traceability. I say, I'm going to apply for that conference because I just discovered that I am an unconscious conscious capitalist. What? How can you be some unconscious? Yeah, that's how I named myself, because I practice those principles, but unconsciously. And I think every entrepreneur practices those 4 principles unconsciously, and we got to get there. So I called them, I sent them an email, had a conversation. I said, hey, I'm an unconscious conscious capitalist from Latin America. I want to talk at your conference. Of course, what happened? They laughed at me. They said, that's an amazing joke. Never heard that joke before. And so we had a funny conversation. 2 hours and a half later, say, oh, I'm gonna ask you to talk to somebody else. And then I said the same story, unconscious conscious capitalist. The guy laughed to say, are they just asking me to tell the joke again to another person? But anyway, an hour and a half, the third person say, you're going to talk to a third person. Ultimately, they said, well, you can come to the conference, but we don't want to hear you. You can hear us. I said, that's fine. I just want to meet with people that I think can be my customer, my client. So I got to the conference, learned a lot, and I came back speaking a different language. People couldn't understand what I was saying because I was not talking about revenue, margins, profit. I was talking about impact, about greatness, not being bigger, but the greatness of what organization can offer to the world. I was talking about purpose, not belief. I was talking about stakeholder, how many other, parties we can affect with our presence, and how many parties affect our business with their presence around us. And that just changed the way I saw this. And so next year I was at a conference again. I had another person. So we launched Conscious Capitalism with Brazil. And in 2014, I did a TED Talk on conscious capitalism, and it just blew away, like 400 views. And ultimately, an interesting fact was that I was being called to talk about business, conscious capitalism, and all that stuff. And people started asking me, how do you make this happen? And that's when it come to me and say, well, I lived in the corporate world for 10 years. I did consulting so I can structure some of the stuff that can be applied there. And I started my own business, and I see how that actually came to life unconsciously. What do I have to do to make it a conscious move, an intentional move, and help people? So what happened is that we just came, I decided, you know what, I'm going to gather a group of people and we're going to write a book called Fundamentals of Conscious Capitalism. The first edition is in Portuguese. And I'm going to share the link here because something interesting, I asked Raj Sisodia, who is the big author of Conscious Capitalism, to write the foreword. And he said, yo, of course I write it. So he wrote the foreword, I translated it to Portuguese, and I said, Raj, can you just record a video for the foreword? Say, what should I say? Anything you want, just say the same thing. So I'm going to share with you guys the QR code, the link to that video, because the funny thing is we created the book because food traceability has a lot of QR codes to lead you, to take you to the path of the food. I say, why don't I put this in the book to make it more interactive? I want people to read, to see, to hear the stories, the impact we're having. So that this first book became that story. And what happened is that in this book, we had not only, the content, the ideas, but we put in exercises. So people could do exercises, QR codes to go back and read and listen and hear and have a different interaction. And that just changed the whole way I started producing content, because I wanted people to have, it's not entertaining. If you have a book that entertains people, you're fighting against maybe Netflix and other channels of entertainment, TikTok and other stuff. So I want people to actually act on what they're reading. So that was the invitation. So we created this book. Next of this book, Raj comes back to me and says, hey, we're going to Cuba. to talk to entrepreneurs in Cuba. Say, what? Do you have entrepreneurs in Cuba? Yes, we have. Let's go. So collectively, I invited a lot of people I knew. Let's translate this book into Spanish. But I could not take capitalism to Cuba. So I did a next book, which is called Fundamentals of Conscious Business. And that made even more sense. So we translated the book in a month. I had 10 people helping me. Each one translated a chapter. Of course, like the language is not really that proof, but it was fun. So we got to this book. We had that for entrepreneurs. We did classes on the principles, on purpose and stakeholder and all that stuff. And they were so excited. And when Raj saw the book, and he didn't see it, he didn't see the final product because we were in different countries. And what happened is he said, oh, Thomas, you know what? Do you want to write a book with us for Harvard Conscious Capitalism Field Guide? Say, yes, because you have a big chunk developed and we wanted to make it a deep dive. So from that, we wrote this book together. And that has a 430 pages book. So it's a challenging book to read, but it has so much content to actually help people to put this in practice. And since 2016, because the origin of this book was a book to help consultants implement this, to help coaches, to help entrepreneurs, to help startups to put this in practice. And that became the foundation for our consultancy project, helping consultants. So today we have 1,200 consultants in 23 countries certified under this methodology. So it's very exciting. We have so much stuff going on, but ultimately that's the whole thing. That's everything that happened from being an unconscious conscious capitalist, and now by promoting not only a change on the capitalism, change of the system, but starting from leaders. Because today I'm very clear that the change, the upgrade needs to happen at leadership. So we have a CEO program to help the CEOs understand the philosophy, and most of the time it's unconscious. We have a board of director program. We have 120 CEOs, 150 board of directors gone through the program, and 1,200 consultants, professionals have done the program as well. So the beauty of all this is that we actually have an ecosystem of consultants. We have an ecosystem of clubs and communities that talk about conscious business in Europe and Latin America, in North America and Asia, because we all believe that business are a force of improvement in humanity. And now, my story aside, let's share a bit of what's behind all that opportunity. Anyone, if you go out there, say people want to start a business, they know what they want to do. They know what they want to improve. Behind the intention of improving something lies what we call the purpose, your intention. Why do you want to do it? The cause of your, starting something, right? So that's the beauty. If you talk to somebody, I want to start a business. What are you going to do? I don't know, but I'm going to make a lot of money. These people, maybe they're going to deal with drugs or something illegal because they don't know yet and they think they're going to make a lot of money. Money is a consequence of how much you able to improve somebody's life through your business, through your product, through your service. The improvement is a reflection of how much money you're going to make. So that's the beauty of this. And one of the things we like to say, and the principle is called evolutionary purpose. Because as you can see, this book has a teal color. What is that? Those are the tools, the 4 principles that elevate a business to self-managed organization. That's what Frédéric Laloux offers us on reinventing organization. So this is not an isolated idea. This is a connection with all different ideas. So the invitation is, this is not the only path or the right path. That's one path. There are so many other paths that you can follow, but they all will look into those 4 principles. So first one, so we like to talk about evolutionary purpose because Purpose has to be adjusted and updated according to the changes, the social and economic changes that are around your business. So it really reflects the intention of why you do what you do, right? So this is the first thing. So once you express your purpose, you have a higher purpose, your elevated purpose, or whatever you want to call it. But the principle is evolutionary purpose, in line with what Frederic Laloux shares with us. So that's very important. We are not isolated. It's not an isolated methodology. It's a methodology that's expressed so many different levels. So that's the first principle. There's another book, Purpose Canvas for Business, which is very easily for small, medium-sized companies to actually start working on this. But the other thing that's important, the second principle, it's stakeholders. What are the stakeholders? When we look at the stakeholders, the evolution, we talked about, stakeholder orientation. We looked to them. Then we talked about stakeholder integration. Today, we talk about stakeholder interdependence, and that comes from biomimicry. Nature is the most successful business model ever. Is a fact. Over millions of years, nature is there working, operating. You don't have a tree competing with another tree. Those trees, those animals, they are all in equilibrium. When we lose track or equilibrium on that ecosystem, something fails, we get a desert, we get something dead, right? And the same thing happens to business. If you try to kill other businesses, you're just killing your own success, your own ecosystem. So if we understand that we are all interdependent, my success depends on my customer success, my employee success, my supplier success, the family of my supplier, my customer's success, my employee success, and the community surrounding my business, and everything, even the competitor. A competitor makes us better. It's a reference of where we should go. So whenever there's no competition, think about a government. There's no competition. So what's their intention to get better? No, they don't have any competition. So when you have competition, you create an ecosystem that keeps improving, constantly improving. So this is the beauty of it. So recognizing interdependence is recognizing that we are part of a bigger system, an ecosystem, not just a value chain. That's a very simplistic, old-fashioned, last century approach. Oh, suppliers, company employees, and customers. No, we have neighbors, we have families, and sometimes the leverage to accelerate your impact, your business, is a stakeholder that's not even in your cash flow chain. That's important. Anyway, so this is the second principle. Recognizing interdependence is very important, in line with biomimicry. Again, we didn't invent it. We just put it together in little boxes. The third principle is recognizing a responsible culture. Why not a conscious culture? Because Enron had a conscious culture. Kodak, I worked for, disappeared, had a conscious culture, but irresponsible. So the truth is, how do we create responsible cultures? How do we create behaviors that we are responsible for? Because in a family, just think about a family. There are things you don't do in a family, but you do in a business. Why you do that there? We have people on both sides. Have you ever thought about doing a downsizing in your family? Of course, maybe you have some in-laws that you really don't like, that you would be glad to downsize them out of your family, but it doesn't happen. You can't downsize. You go through a crisis. I have 4 kids. I'm just going to downsize to 3 kids and put one on the street. Give them a little bag, a little food, and you have to go. I can't pay school for 3 kids or medicals, healthcare for 4 kids. I just can't pay. It doesn't work. So don't try to do it in a business. Try to do a performance review with your significant other once a year, just to get divorced. One day I told CEOs I did a performance review with my daughter in early December, so we knew exactly what gift we would give her, and she said, I told her, 1st of January, you had the towel on the floor. The 2nd of January, you had your clothes on the floor. 3rd of January, say, wait. Are you going to go 360 days? I said, yes, it's a performance review. Why didn't you tell me then that was wrong? Why are you telling me just now? Because it depends on how much wrong was there before. Maybe you don't get any Christmas gift. Say, no, that's all wrong. So it doesn't work. Don't try to do a performance appraisal once a year with your people. You have to talk to them constantly. So responsible culture is totally aligned with values, with culture. What are you promoting as a group of people towards the purpose, towards the cause, to what you are trying to do, right? And ultimately, leadership, that's the challenging one, because we come from a time where leadership is command and control. It's centralization. It's all like bad things. And we're heading towards a, self-managed organization, because a family has always been self-managed. You pick your plate, you finish your dinner, you take it to the kitchen. Each one does a small piece of the work and nobody does the whole work. So that's leadership. That's we all participate when we have a common cause. When we have a responsible culture, when we recognize that our strength is the strength of the group, interdependence. So all that stuff is so important. And that makes all difference. So leadership, now I'm going to connect with what Simon Sinek says. We talk about caring leadership, because if you care for your people will care for the business, for the results, for everything else. So that's the invitation I do. Leaders eat last, so the troops are strong. That's Simon Sinek. So we're putting all this together to make sure that we share principles that combined actually generate a high potential performance. And if you look at the results, say, oh, but Thomas, that looks like it looks like tree hugger group, right? Well, we also hug trees, and some don't like to hug trees, but we are there. But one thing that we learned in this book, we had the latest from 2018, financial performance. We identified, Raj Sisodia on his first study, and we updated to this book, we identified financial performance of companies, and we compared that to the average market performance, the financial market performance. So Standard & Poor's S&P 500, it actually, increased about 250% over 20 years. Companies that practice those 4 principles intentionally, that's important. They practice those 4 principles intentionally and sustainably and repeatedly. What happens is that their performance is 7 times better than the average company performance. So think about yourself. If you started something like this 20 years ago, and today your results were 20 times, not 20%, 7 times higher than the average, that would be just unbelievable, just amazing, right? One thing that is important, what we learned, it's that the performance actually gets some triggers or some upsides after crisis. Why does that happen? Because these companies, they don't generate only financial result. They generate social result, emotional result, environmental result, surplus in different areas, knowledge, technology, and so on. So which are all those areas we can generate result? Just pick the Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 areas to generate added value. So that's the invitation I do. That's the invitation to say, start this now, implement those principles now, because that will take you to extraordinary results in the long term. Unless you're here for the short term, because a lot of the people that start a business, they're entrepreneurs, they're not here for like short-term gain. Whoever starts a business, they're here for the long run. So if you're here for the long run, just that's where you should invest. And that's those 4 principles that will make a whole difference. So I love the comments out there on the different channels we are sharing this information. So Free Spirit has some comments, so love that. Thanks for following us. And before continuing here, I would like to invite everyone, if you have questions once you saw this video, once you heard this, just put that on the comments. We will post answers to those questions through the Conscious Business Club website and LinkedIn's page to respond to all those questions. This is the first part. We talked about my story. We talked about the 4 principles. And one of the things I would like to share is if we think about the other movements, let's think about circular economy. That's conscious business. Why? Because it has a leader. One of the companies said we're going to become a circular business. So they establish how we will operate. The cause is becoming circular, taking less out of the world. We have to be interdependent, because if somebody doesn't play the game, we don't close the circle. And we have to create a culture that is always focused on extracting less from the environment and using more of what has been extracted. So this is the invitation I do, that everywhere we go, any new movement we will have at a higher or lower degree those 4 principles. Shared economy. What's the purpose? The purpose is not build more or use more or buy more, is how do we share what's already out there? So there's a leader, there's somebody actually who starts that initiative and starts sharing some services, some products, and create a culture that everybody benefits from that. And we only get stronger if everybody participates. So we can go on and on with all the different methodologies or approaches, and they all will lead us to those 4 principles at a higher or a lower degree. But that's the invitation. Be present. Think and listen and feel that those principles are always there in good and strong businesses. And business have a great impact. Business have great results. So I just want to make it 30 minutes here so that we have a chance to have a conversation, have an additional interaction. So if Anya wants to join me to have some thought-provoking questions, and Teya too, so we'll be glad to have this interaction.
Yeah, hello, Thomas. It was a great introduction. One question from my side. So, for me, conscious business principles are just very common sense. And my question is, why are not common sense for everyone? So what are your thoughts on that?
That's true. That's amazing, because it's so common sense. It's not like rocket science, I think when we pick the wrong partner, we change directions. Because if you think about the whole ecosystem, there's one big challenge. The investor, and sometimes we need to understand the other side to make sure we have the right relationship built with that party. Okay, with that stakeholder. Investor is the one to put money in the business. When the business sells something and money comes in, then the business will pay taxes, will pay employees, will pay suppliers, will pay bonuses for the executives. And then if there's some money left, they pay some dividends to the investor. So the investor puts a lot of pressure, because they are the first one to put money and the last one to take money out. Right? So there's a pressure. So be aware of the investor you bring into your business. That is very important, because some investors, they just want more money, and they're going to put the pressure in your business to get that money out. So very careful on how you pick and choose your investors. Some companies offer stock options. Employees become investors. Some companies call people that have the same cause, and they put their own money in. What do they want? Employee want to make sure that they have a future, they have potential, that the company is growing. Investors, personal investors that are aligned with your cause, they want to see the impact more than the money back, because if they're investing their own personal money in that, because they say, I have enough, I just want to improve it, I make my impact bigger. But if you want a bank, a professional investor, they put money and they want more money out. So be careful with who you pick as a partner. And this is where I failed with my business. I picked wrong partners, and our values didn't match as we grew. Some people saw their ego growing, and I saw my ego growing. It's not that my ecosystem is more important than my ecosystem, but we need to balance both. It's like in an airplane. Please put first the mask on yourself and then help somebody else. So we need to balance ego and ecosystems.
Well,
Good.
I like that. Sorry, Anya.
No worries. I'm sure that there's some delay in between. Thomas is in Brazil, so I'm in the middle of Slovenia. And Thea, where are you? Are you on a boat?
No, I'm in my garden. So
Ah, okay, you're in the garden.
in Slovenia.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, what I wanted to ask you, Thomas, and maybe, that's just my point of view, but with everything now that we are all doing, like I'm really focusing on this, like learn, unlearn, relearn. Yeah. This is the process now. It has been a process for a while. And how I see it is like people there are people with a lot of money. There are people, who are super wealthy. So I believe that we should teach them, we should guide them, they should learn how to act consciously, because I know quite a lot of people, and I met quite a lot of people. It's like, hey Anya, I sold all my Google shares, or I earned so much money, now I want to do something good for humanity, for the world, but they have no idea what to do. So I think, yeah, what is your take on that?
Here, this is, it happens so often, and I think this is where we have to raise their awareness, because they can play the game to win a different game. There's a guy from, imagine, Mark Cuban in the United States. He is part of that TV reality show Shark Tank, so he's an investor, fights, but he is also a player to win the game. So he's in sports, he likes sports, and he started a startup to distribute medicine, right? And every time somebody starts that business, a pharmaceutical large company comes in and buys them and closes them. And he said, nobody will buy me because I have enough money. I'm not in for the money. I want to win that game. So we need to bring awareness and understand each one's personality and talent and wishes and wants, because there's always a game that we can invite them in to play to win. It's not to make money, it's to build your legacy. And that's what we have, because the money will be gone. But if you leave something behind to say, oh, I buy the medicine from Mark Cuban, and he's growing and growing and growing, and he will control that because he said, I have enough money. So the question is, how much is enough for you, and how much would you like to invest in a business that can actually make a difference, elevate humanity, not separate humanity? Because and this is the invitation, it's a difference for me between progress and prosperity. Progress is a couple of people that make a lot of money, open the path, get the gold, the diamonds, whatever, and take them home and hold them. The path is there. And we, the others, the people, they can go back and forth on that path that was open, but the wealth has been taken. So now the question is, prosperity is when we take everybody up. We elevate more people. And that's what business has done. But we need to say, how much is enough? How much do we need to accumulate? Because if we keep accumulating, it's infinite. It's infinite, The balance on a bank account can go up, maybe up to the limit of the digits the bank has on their system. But then you open another bank account, right? So the invitation is, where can we bring the guys in that made enough money, say, how do we create something that creates a legacy? Because once you're gone, you're gone. But the business might live forever. So their businesses for 400 years, 300 years, 100 years. But our lifespan is 80, 100, maybe 120, and that's it. So what are the things we have passion for, that we can go in and play the game in a different way?
Yeah.
So
I like that quote from the Conscious Business Scan report, which is I have written it here. The purpose of business is not to create profit. The purpose of business is to create profitable solutions to the problems of people and planet, not to profit by creating problems for people and planet. So this is basically the idea, right, about what conscious business is.
Yes, and one of the things I think we follow too much what Milton Friedman said last century. You know, the purpose of business is to generate profit to the shareholders, and I like to adjust that to my version is the purpose of any organization is to generate value to all stakeholders, and value, a surplus of value, is not just money, economical value, could be knowledge, could be time, could be some benefit. There's so many dimensions of value that can be created. Some people say, I'm good. We had a project in a country in Latin America, and the guy was making so much money. He said, I'm going to pay double the salaries to my employees. They didn't show up on the second half of the month because they didn't need the money, and because he didn't talk to the people. Said, instead of paying them more, just give them 2 weeks off, or you work 1 week, go home another week, work another week, because that's enough money for them. And then you employ more people and say, wow, that's even better than just giving more money to a few of them, employing more people, because the people are there. They said, I have enough. And if you want to work 4 weeks, you make 4 times that weekly salary. If you want to work 2 weeks, that's enough for you. That's fine. Just go and fish and camp and pick your kids at school. So everyone wants something different. Not everybody wants to be a millionaire. People just want to have a good life. And a good life means different things for different people, right?
Well, when we met for the first time, right? And I was asking you about the examples. So how we can support people to do more conscious business, and you shared with me that case with the restaurants.
Yes.
And that's street. Can you share this with
sure.
all of us?
I think this is one of the stakeholders that we are most afraid of is competition, right? Because, they're going to steal our business. They're going to take that away. But we are evolving so much in the way we do business that our competition is not our neighbor anymore. They're much further away. So we did a work with restaurants in a area where a lot of restaurants happen, and they actually understood that. So because one is Japanese food, one is burgers, and one is this one, so different styles and different Mexican and so on. So you get a group of people, 4 people say, let's have a burger. Say one of them said, no, I prefer a Japanese, and then you create some critical situation. And the waiter said, don't worry, I just go and pick up the menu from the Japanese restaurant, and you order, and we bring it over here. That's fine. That works. So you have this 4 people in one restaurant. Because if they don't do this, and they were telling me their competition is not their neighbor, because if you have 4, 5, 6 restaurants, that's a nice neighborhood to walk around if the sidewalks are good, if the place is safe. So people like to go outside. But a lot of people, when they get home, they sit down on the sofa and they said, maybe I'm not going to go out anymore. You just pick up your cell phone and you order food for delivery. Now, your competition is not your neighbor. Your neighbor is actually your partner to attract people to walk outside at night, because your competition is the cell phone, is the entertainment, it's Netflix. But Netflix doesn't sell food. But if you sit down, TikTok, Netflix, they're all in the same category. And I just got lazy. I don't want to step up. And I order food. And the food comes to my door. And that is the new competition. That's the competition for restaurants. If you look at the studies, there are studies that show if you have only a Coca-Cola vending machine alone, it sells less than if the Coca-Cola and the Pepsi-Cola machines are together. Say, how come? Why would people buy more Coke if there's a competitor on the side? Because people like to have options. Isn't that amazing?
Right.
So
yes.
Competition is not next door. Competition is further away as the system, as the ecosystem evolves and gets bigger, and we are closer digitally, but more distance in person, right?
Yeah, great story.
Yeah, it's those things are so amazing because and one of those restaurants, so the guy said, yeah, but I don't have a purpose. I just do like smoked meat. I say, do you think your smoked meat is good? Oh, I think it's very good. That's your purpose. You believe that your smoked meat is good. How many people are coming to the restaurant? A lot. Because your smoked meat is good. People like it. They are coming back. Yes, they are. If they're not good, they will come once and never again. So I
Sure.
went to his restaurant one day and we ordered like a punch fruit thing. And we tasted the fruit, say, these fruits were cut yesterday. And I told him, say, hey, guy, you're trying to save money using the fruits from yesterday. They don't taste good today. And he called, he was the owner of the restaurant was not there. I sent him a message, say, I'm so sorry. Please, I'm so sorry. It should never happen. These guys, I told every day they should not save what was used in one day or cut or sliced in one day to save it for the next day. It has not the same quality. And that impacts, because if I'm not happy, I try something, it's not good, I'm not coming back.
Sure.
Right? So that's the beauty. That's the, if your focus is on the quality, because here's the invitation. Being bigger is easy. I set the target and I reach it at any cost. If I have to sell my soul to evil, I will sell it and reach that target because I get my bonus. But being better, it's a different metric. The outside will tell you if you're better or not. And being better makes you bigger. Being bigger hinders your potential to grow in your future. So which an interesting challenge.
So what would you suggest to the companies who somehow forget about their purpose? They're really just, from quarter to quarter running and forecasting and running over their targets and so on. So it's really a soulless. These are soulless organizations, and people are suffering, and there is no enthusiasm. The morale is low, and sooner or later, also the business suffers. So, and from my point of view, conscious business principles and ideas and methodologies are the cure, let's say, for such companies. But from my practice, this is truly not, very easy. So
yes.
So what would be your suggestion?
If the company, let's pick a couple of examples. If the company is established long ago, like 20, 30, 50 years, my suggestion is to go back to the founders. What was their intention? And I'm going to go back to the founder of Coca-Cola, because it was medicine. It was not something to drink and just to drink over and over and over. It was medicine, and somebody just, lost. No, it's something to help your health. I don't know if that was really, really good medicine, but that was the intention at the start. So my first suggestion is, let's go back to the founding members of your business. What was their intention? What was the situation around them? What was the social and economic situation? And what were they trying to help, to fix, to improve? Because from that intention, now you have that intention. So what you do is you have three things. You have the intention, you have the situation, and you have your talent, what you're bringing to the table to actually help that situation. So how did the situation change from today, from yesterday, from the founding time to today? How did your talents change from that time to today? And is there any change on what the people need and what we are trying to offer to make lives better? So now we're starting to say, oh my God, we just deviated so much from here, from there. Because having a clear purpose is more than just having a purpose. It's not just writing it on the table. And when we talk about ESG, environment, social, and governance without a purpose is compliance, because you're following the numbers, the financial numbers. The purpose will tell you, say, does this decision advance our purpose or lose track of purpose? And now you're really rethinking, but if we go this way, we make a lot of money, but we lose our purpose. Is our purpose correct? It is correct. That's what we want to do. That's what we want to achieve. So maybe this is not for us. We're going to make more money today, and we will kill the soul of our business. Why people come to work? Because people need this. We need to understand why we work, not just to make more money, pay our bills. And I think bringing that back, it only comes back when we bring it back from the founders and we update that idea to what we have today around us and make it relevant again.
Thomas, you are also a trainer of the Conscious Business Consultants. You have an academy or school.
Yes.
I'm not sure how is it called. So how can they support companies in becoming more conscious?
So this is it's basically a network of small and medium consulting firms that work together. We operate in different regions, so we always collaborate. Because when you're a small company, a lot of people show in and say, "Oh, that's only you, Anya, that you're gonna do. That's you are your business." Say, no. I am part of a community, and Thomas Eckschmidt is my senior advisor. Then we have Taya as my strategic partner, and then we have, so people look at us as a group that can help a business. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we have a strong methodology that has been developed and keeps being developed over the years as we do more projects and we do more training that help people to understand how to implement this. Because it's just like, oh, let's write your purpose. No, let's understand where you're coming from. Understand how your employees, how your suppliers, how your customers see you and what the impact is of your presence so that we can bring that expression. Because when you grow up as a business, a lot of people have, opinion about you and your presence. Say, this you do this bad and this you do well, and let's extract what you do well and make sure that we continue on the path where we do more good than damage, right? And so we as a consulting group, community, I would say community more than a group or a club, or, we always cooperate with each other because sometimes the company is larger and we need people in other countries. And that's when we have the resource. Sometimes we need somebody who is more creative, more this or more that. We know in the community who that person is and bring them in for 1 hour, 2 hours and help to deliver something, a good facilitator and so on. So that all brings us together because the same way we have the Conscious Business Club, we're going to bring people together to share this experience, to strengthen this group, because most of us are unconscious conscious leaders or conscious capitalists or conscious whatever. And the more we do this intentionally, the stronger our business organization gets. Sometimes by doing this without the intention, it's easy to lose track. It's easy to just follow the money. And by the time I had my business, that was very easy. We did a lot of mistakes because we had no purpose. Is that going to make us better? No, it's going to save money. Wrong answer. So saving money not always means that it's going to make us better. Oh, but we're going to have more dividends for the shareholders. But in the long run, we're going to kill the energy of our people. How much does the energy of our people represent in money? Well, let's start. And that's the exercise we have to do. We took a decision not offering parking space. So people had to park their cars on the street and other places before they stayed like 1 hour, hour and a half at the office, eating like some fruits and vegetables, things that we had to offer, and talking about generic stuff and talking about the problems, the business, the program, the system. And we got amazing solution on that happy hour time collectively. Once we did not offer the parking space, what did they do? At 5 o'clock, they left. So we lost that community. We lost the people sharing whatever they wanted about football, about, volleyball, about whatever, about the news and about the business, about the problems, about the challenges they had. personal challenge, business challenge, professional challenge. And now once you cut that off, but we saved a lot of money, but we lost people's attention. We lost the community, the connection. So that was sad. And we never measured that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thomas, I have another question. So what
Anya, your connection is...
For example, when there is a CEO, manager, whatever, is it better?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to speak slowly. So when you have a company owner and he is working on himself, herself, and is a conscious person, and he wants to bring this conscious culture into the company that exists for now, I don't know, 10, 20 years, 30, whatever. And he's like, oh my God, my people will never understand it. Like, how can somebody from above, like conscious leader, bring in this culture? Like, what would be the first steps? Because I'm meeting a lot of company owners like that they are going through some kind of, spiritual awakening or personal transformation, and then they want to change something in their company. What would be the first step?
The first step is, I always say, education is what changes the world. Because if that person has understood the role, his personal purpose, and he wants to use the business as an expression of that purpose, he needs to start finding the right partners. And that was where I failed. I thought my partners were good, but they were not in line with my values. Make sure the first people you reach out share your values. Now you're starting to build a team. With that team, you start to change your leadership behavior, which influences all the other team members. So it's top down, slow. It's not a revolution that starts from the bottom up. It's a change, an upgrade from top down. So the leaders will behave differently, and people say, I want to be leader too, so I have to behave just like him, right? So that's the invitation. Find your partners, and always try to get with somebody from the outside that can bring you a better perspective. Because somebody from the outside will see things that you don't see. It's like going through, therapy. It's a business therapy, as a professional therapy. It's not a personal therapy, but it's how I can see a path here. I can see that person will align with you. So that's the invitation. Use outside resources to help you. And also find your peers with the same values as you have inside your business. Okay? So it's a mandatory. That's the only way you move forward to actually be able to advance that agenda or recover, that purpose, that intention, that expression.
Well, in so many companies, this intention, this purpose is just non-existent. So that owner and or owners and managers and people forget about why do we exist. Also, there are lots of mergers and acquisitions, and this is also a special challenge because different companies are coming together with not necessarily with the same purpose, right? And for sure with the different values. So these are also the cases in the current business and so on. So there is a lot of this. There's really a lot of one value which is present. Just let's make more money, and it's really like a cancer to this business ecosystem. And companies somehow don't, or leaders don't realize that we're interconnected, as you said before, that you said like the nature is has the best business model, right? So this was great. So what is your view on this, right? And I believe this is part of the evolution, because somehow this business as we know it today, which is the mainstream, is not sustainable. But what is your view on this and your suggestion to everyone who are not necessarily leaders, who are just employees or suppliers or whatever, but whichever stakeholder they are, to not lose hope and enthusiasm and energy, and to somehow be persistent in doing business consciously?
One of the things I think that the mergers and acquisitions offer us is a space for new companies to come in, because once that merge happens, you lose something. You lose the founder, you lose the intention, because two companies with different intentions, most of the time it's really hard to become one single company. So there's a lot of loss in value creation, which opens up a space for new companies. Now, a new company, to actually be able to compete in the market, make sure you have an amazing relationship with your suppliers, with your customers. You create values to more people, not just to the shareholder, because those connections, that relationship will actually last longer and help you become much stronger business than just another option in the market. So my suggestion is always the same way as a big ecosystem in nature. A big tree falls down and it's eaten by the small animals, by the, everything else, and goes back to the ecosystem. When a merge happens, there's a lot of loss. Even people think, oh, we're going to make it bigger, but there's a loss and opens up a lot of new opportunities to serve better those around us. And when the merge happens, it's so big that you can't control all the reach you have, and you create those spots of creativity, of innovation, of service to the world. And there are a lot of people willing to serve, and there are a lot of, and we need to be the tool to actually help them see that what they're doing is a long-term, a long-term plan. It's not like it will live longer than ourselves. It will build legacy. It's the infinite game, right?
Yeah. This is the idea, right?
Yes.
So, Anya, would you like to, because now we have more than an hour, and
yes.
So Anya, would you like to wrap up? And
yeah, I mean, first of all, Thomas, thank you very much for enlightening us about conscious, your conscious business journey and everything what you are doing. Where they can reach you, where people can reach you, who is watching this. I know that most of it's like your context, but still, like how can people reach you?
Well, LinkedIn is the easiest way. And we can also reach through the Conscious Business Club, since we are together. So that's another space to work together. Ultimately, what I want is, the content is out there. We just put it together. I'm one option. If you want to learn more, just reach out to through through LinkedIn, and they're like my profile, or Conscious Business Club Global at EU. So this is where we can actually connect. We shared this event big in Europe with a lot of connections in Europe. So what we want is we want the community. We don't want them to go to another continent to reach out to me. Let's reach out to us, to the club, to Conscious Business Club, because the stronger we are locally, the stronger the message gets out, and we support each other. So this is my call. Let's go through the Conscious Business Club, and we can do more conversations, do more exercises. We have a Conscious Business Activator exercise to help people. Let's do the first step on purpose, on stakeholder, on culture and leadership. There's so many options, so much work out there. So that's the invitation I leave you all. Let's share this. Invite, and here's the other thing. Invite your supplier. Invite your supplier to have this conversation, because the stronger your connection with your supplier, the stronger your ecosystem starts becoming. And once your supplier and your business have a strong connection, you have a stronger connection. You create stronger connections with your employees, with your customers, and it keeps going.
Everyone. Yeah. It was great, Thomas. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Thomas. Yeah. One more thing I would just like to add. If somebody is watching who is a trainer or coach, and they say, "Oh, I'm conscious," now you can get a certificate for that.
Yes.
So it's like, with Thomas and everything, what he's doing. So seriously, it's like it's a structured way how to become a conscious consultant and conscious businessman. And this is super valuable. I really like what I saw so far. And I'm so grateful, that we could collaborate on this together. So yeah, let's raise collective consciousness together in business and have even more fun.
Yes. And follow us at Conscious Business Club, because we have more conversations coming. We had a previous one, amazing. Next one is going to be, so this conversation doesn't stop here. It's just starting and continues from here.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
exactly.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank
Have
you.
a fantastic, is it day or night in Brazil? What's the time difference?
Noon. Is we're going for lunch now. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Okay.
So
Have a
enjoy
great
your
lunch.
lunch, Thomas.
Thank you. Take care.
Talk to you
So-
soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye
good one.
bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.